I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm following the agenda. Where's the flag? Oh my God. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. St. Omer, would you take roll call, please?
Dr. Joyce Roberts. Mr. Adam Lane.
Here.
Miss Donna Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Dorothy Rhodey Collins.
Present.
Mrs. Susan Jones. Present. Mrs. Tracy Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Natalie Val.
Present.
We have a quorum.
The first item on our agenda are student staff recognitions. I believe Dr. Adams has some introductions to make.
Good evening. It is my honor tonight to recognize our brand new principals for the 1920 school year. Obviously, some of them were with us before. We're pleased to have them come back home, if you will. First of all, Miss Clay Elementary School, Therese Nance, started her career in education with the district 8 years ago and is the incoming principal of Clay Academy of Exploration and Civics. She previously served as assistant principal at Naheed Chapman New American Academy and the dean of students at Patrick Henry Downtown Academy. Will you please stand wherever? Thank you. I normally wait till we finish everybody, but for principals, I'm going to ask y'all to clap every single time. All right? Frable, Mr. Jim Triplett is the new principal of Frable Literacy Academy. This school is the beginning of the third consecutive year back in, this is his third year back in this SLPS and his sixth year in the district overall. Prior to this role, he served as teacher at Gateway Elementary and AIC at Siegel Elementary and assistant principal at Gateway Elementary, and quite frankly was recognized by the American as a teacher of the year as well. Mr. Triplett. Ms. Karen Austin Lindsay began her educational career at St. Louis Public Schools in 1994 as a second grade teacher at Elliott School. After 6 years teaching, she expanded her role at Sherman Elementary as a reading coach and specialist. Before being named principal of the school, she spent 11 years as the academic instructional coach at Gateway Elementary School. Mrs. Karen Austin Lindsay. Dr. Derek Mitchell, Sr. is a Vashon High School graduate and served as its principal for 3 years. In 2013, he became the principal of Normandy High School and was instrumental in helping to lead the district to provisional accreditation. He spent 2 years as principal of Hazelwood Central High School and is returning home to serve the children of SLPS at the ICA Innovative Concept Academy program. Mr. Dr. Derek Mitchell, thank you for coming back home. Dr. Leslie Bonner is an experienced, results-driven leader. Her experience in education spans over 20 years, beginning with the district's dropout prevention program, where she successfully recruited more than 500 mentors for the St. Louis Public Schools. She taught social studies and special education at Vashon High School for 4 years and held other positions in the district before being selected to lead Jefferson Elementary. Dr. Bonner. Angel Nave, the new principal of Bertha Knox Gilkey Pomoja Preparatory Academy at Cole, is a product of St. Louis Public Schools, having graduated from Beaumont High School. She began her teaching career in 2001 in mathematics at Louverture Middle School and taught mathematics at Carnahan High School for 4 years. Mrs. Nave was an assistant principal at Carnahan, Vashon, and Pomoja before becoming the principal at Pomoja at Bertha Gilkey. Dr. Patrick Henry, Dr. Deborah Rogers is excited to begin her 10th year at SLPS as a new principal of Patrick Henry Downtown Academy. She began her tenure as an English language arts teacher at Gateway Middle School, serving as the 8th grade team leader and winning the ELA Teacher of the Year in 2016. Dr. Deborah Rogers. Mrs. Shamika Humphrey is the new principal of Peabody Elementary School. Her work has worked for St. Louis Public School for 6 years, teaching kindergarten and third grade. She has served the district as an aspiring leader, mentor, teacher leader, recruitment and selection fellow, and a PD presenter. Mrs. Shamika Humphrey. Ms. Cicely Johnson, the new principal of Meloncrot Academy of Gifted Instruction, began her educational career with St. Louis Public School more than 15 years ago. She taught special education and English at Sumner High School and ICA before joining the administrative team. She also served as assistant principal at Clyde C. Miller Academy for 3 years. Mrs. Cicely Johnson. Dr. Stephen Kyle Jefferson is a proud new principal of Kennard Classical Junior Academy. Dr. Jefferson has 10 years of experience in diverse metropolitan school districts. Most recently, he worked as a school leader assistant principal in Cleveland, Ohio. Mrs. Deandra Wallace, the new principal at Hickey Elementary, began her teaching career in SLPS at Emerson Elementary in the year 2000. She participated in the district's New Leader Project while serving as a principal intern. While there, she has served as assistant principal, teacher, learning facilitator, and consultant teacher. Mrs. Deandra Wallace. Ms. Angelique Brown, the new principal at Lexington Elementary, started her teaching career with SLPS in 1999. She returned to SLPS in 2013, where she completed PACE for aspiring leaders, worked as the principal at Stevenson Center for Academic Development, and won a Pettis Award. Mrs. Angelique Brown. And last but not least, the principal of Yateman Middle School. Chip Clayto is a veteran school leader with experience spanning from elementary to high school. He was a founding principal at CSMB Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, and has returned to SLPS to lead Yateman Liddell College Preparatory Middle School. If you would all stand, please, I would ask all to stand. If you would give them a round of applause, please. And because this is the first day of school, they are excused so that it will not be tardy on tomorrow. Thank you all very much for coming out. I know it was a tough day today, but thank you everybody for coming. Thank you. I think they're going to take another picture out front, and then you can squeeze out of here.
The next item on our agenda is public comment, so I'll call them in the order that individuals signed in. The first is Bill Monroe.
I'm going to be joined at the podium here with two members from FIRE, which is the Black Firefighters Association, and I'll tell you why. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'm the CEO of Harriet Tubman Incorporated, a non-for-profit 501c3. And currently, we have, before the St. Louis Public Schools, a contract, I hope you still got it, Superintendent, a contract to save Beaumont. We want to save Beaumont High School. And we don't want Beaumont to end up like the school down the street from there. And we would like to open up Harriet Tubman Preparatory High School and Career Center at the Beaumont site. And I brought these brothers here, and I'm honored with their presence, because as a part of a curriculum-based program at Harriet Tubman, these brothers will teach fire and we're going to teach fire, police, and paramedics. And they're going to handle the fire and the paramedic program. And we got members of the Black Police Officer Association that's going to handle the police officer training. And we're asking that this board approves this contract for Harriet Tubman and help save Beaumont High School, help save the property. We'll leave that name up there, but it becomes Harriet Tubman. And we're going to work in collaboration upon the acceptance of this contract that's at the superintendent's office. Upon the acceptance of this contract, we're going to have a high school career center and a facility to assist and aid the homeless children in our community, of which numbers range from 5,000 to 6,000 homeless children. We don't need another vacant property there in North St. Louis. I'm ashamed and I'm angry that our politicians want to bring the National Guard. They want to bring all types of police agencies into North St. Louis to tackle that problem. The problem is we need to have education, skills, and job training. That would do more for that community than any of the above. And we're asking your cooperation, and we want you to look that contract over. I'm a little sad today because last month I did ask in writing. I asked in writing, and I stood before this board and asked that I be placed on the agenda because 3 minutes is not enough to talk about this project. And I think you kind of did me a disservice by not even letting me know that I couldn't get on the agenda. But I'm here once again speaking in behalf of saving the Beaumont High School and turn it into Harriet Tubman Preparatory High School and Career Center. And I think no better name for that life-saving project than Harriet Tubman. And I thank you for your cooperation, and I'd like to get an answer as to when you're going to consider that. I have some banks and finance people waiting on a signed contract between Harriet Tubman and the St. Louis Public Schools in order to give me some funds. And as you know, it's very, very difficult for a black man, anything black in this town, to get any funds and resources for positive things. And I ask for your cooperation. And I can answer any question you might have if you have one. But please consider North St. Louis. We don't need the police. We don't need, and I'm an ex-policeman now. We don't need police. We don't need the National Guard to come in and tackle that community. We need to bring our children in, feed them, clothe them, train them, teach them, and we'll change North St. Louis. I thank you.
Cynthia Dodson.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I'm here about Dunbar School. It's at 1415 North Garrison. I went to that school for kindergarten, first and second grade. And from my understanding, you need 150 kids, 180 kids to go there, and there's only 150 from last year. Well, I think that y'all should get in with the St. Louis Housing Authority because they have so many apartments over there that's boarded up that you can move families in and build the community up, and the kids can go back to the schools there instead of closing the schools and then busing the kids out. And that way, like I said, if y'all get with the housing authorities to have them to open up these buildings, it's a lot of apartments that when they move them out, they just board them up. And that's not fair to the kids in the community, the people in the community, when you can have people on waiting lists to come in and build their community up. Because I hate to see that school be abandoned. I've drove around, I've catered around, and I've seen a lot of schools that are abandoned because of the communities have died. But we can keep the JVL community alive if you work with the housing authority and get these buildings open so we can bring these children back and get them into these schools. And for one thing, we need like a middle school over there. We got for Sean over there. We need a middle school over there. Also, because you got kids that goes to middle school, instead of busing them out and say, you can save money, put them in this community back. So all I'm asking is, don't close Dunbar, work with the housing authority and get them to open these buildings up and let the children and the families come back in and build their community up. Because it's a beautiful community. Everybody know everybody, everybody love everybody, but it's dying out because they're not letting anybody in the houses. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Miguel and Carla Alexander.
Hello. We represent the Jeff Vandello neighborhood. We are across the street from Dunbar Elementary School at Miss Tilley's Corner, which is a historic landmark. Our grandmother used to have a grocery store there in the neighborhood. The community is what it is. We've been there since the 1940s. I mean, not us personally, but my grandmother opened her store in 1948, and we grew up in the 1960s. We're here to say There are a lot of things that go on in our neighborhood that need to, let me start over. There are a lot of things that go on in our neighborhood that we're seeing that need to be held on to. We're losing our children to gun violence. We're losing our children to other schools in the county. And we see the importance of Dunbar being there as a unique setting in the community. The unique setting in the community is that in that particular area of the JVL, Dunbar is situated in walking distance to Vashon High School, and it's walking distance to a community college, which is the Harrison Center, the St. Louis Community College. So that unique triangle of feeder schools is what we want to keep in place in that community. We've been on the street, we've been in daycares, we have so much support, and we're wanting to let the board know that we need your support because there are a lot of ideas flying out there to keep Dunbar open. One of them was the Believe Project. The Believe Project is by creator Julius Anthony. He wants to bring a reading program into the school, but to our understanding, it was denied. We need all the help we can get. We even had an idea for 6th grade, 7th grade, well, 7th grade and 8th grade to come back just to retain the students because we need 180 students to keep it open. And I understand that might not be a possibility. So we're here to, yes, the NGA is coming. Our community is getting ready to change. And we know that we can keep Dunbar open, whether we bring organizations in there to support it, whatever we can do to just keep our school open. And we know that the brains are here. The brains are everywhere out here. We've been asking for ideas to get these children excited about going to their school. And retaining a long-standing neighborhood school is the best thing for a community to stand.
Equal education.
Equal education, equal opportunity, and we thank you for your time.
Irma Neville's McNeil.
What a good sight to see. I am so happy that the elected school board is in position. I see some of my dear friends up there who's been fighting and staying here for a long time. I represent the Missouri Retired Teachers Association, region number 14. We are 29,000 strong. And so we represent the whole state. I'm a region 14 vice president, and I'm here to tell you something about the organization, which some of you may not know. Anyone in the St. Louis Public Schools, there are like 9 districts. There's Hazelwood, Ferguson, Florissant, Ridnor, Pattonville, University City. So there's about 9. And so what we did this year, there are 7 grants that we give out. We gave St. Louis Public Schools, they received 2 $500 grants. These teachers, one came from McKinley High School, and the other one from Buda High School. We were happy to present these grants. And Missouri Retired Teachers, our sole purpose, we are concerned about the educators or anyone who work for the public St. Louis school system. We are concerned about their welfare and their benefits. We have not been treated fairly, and I'm saying this to this board. I know it wasn't you, but I want to let you know that Missouri Retired Teachers Association, they say it's outrageous how the educators and the employees of St. Louis Public Schools have been treated. We are supposed to receive a cost of living to help us with our living. Some of our members, about half, maybe 2,500, believe it or not, 30 years of services to our beautiful school district. receive less than $1,000 for pension, and there has not been an increase, and it's a shame. The money is there, the funds is there, and sometimes legislators write bills, and these bills harm us. So we stand there and we fight them. I've been fighting for them since 2005. I will be fighting until I go home, the heavenly home. So I want to say this, that I respect you, and I am very pleased to see you, President Collins. Thank you.
Gloria Nolan.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say, first off, congratulations on governance returning to the elected board. This is truly exciting for our community and our families. Really, really exciting. So, I am with Better Budgets, Better Schools, a campaign powered by We Power. Myself and 16 other devoted women in North City began our work in the spring of 2018. A few members are here tonight. Would you please stand? And then other power builders are in the building with us as well. We are building power in our communities and raising our voice to enact policy change. So we started some work and we developed the following policy demands. 1, distribute paper and electronic communications to all school staff, faculty, and families about all budget meetings and decisions. We know that whenever there's anything to be learned about an organization, you follow the money. So this is what we're basing our campaign on. Number 2, host 4 sessions a year to gather public input into key decisions on the upcoming school year's budget. And then number 3, release paper and electronic reports and dashboards that illustrate district-wide and school-specific budget sources, allocations, goals, and strategic priorities. To date, over 700 parents and community members have supported our demands, and we continue to build on that. We will be reaching out to each of you, the newly elected board members and past board members, to discuss ways that we can partner together and improve our schools for our children. Thank you very much.
Jean Corbett.
Good evening. I would like to echo the congratulations to you all for being here in this building, having this meeting. It is very exciting for the community. I am here representing a large group of alumni of CJA and Metro to bring back to the table the issue of renaming St. Louis Public School buildings that are inappropriately named. Specifically, last year we spent the year working on Kennard because we know that that name is for a Confederate lieutenant. We know that that's unacceptable. You know that's unacceptable. So we're here to say it's time to change that. I emailed each of you this evening with a policy and process change for renaming not just the one building, but after our meeting with Dr. Adams last spring, the idea of renaming any SLPS building that is problematic came up. So that is what the policy and process request is that I emailed to you all this evening. So please take a look at that and get back to me or any of the other members of our group. Thank you. Have a good night.
That concludes public comment. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the August 13th, 2019 regular business meeting agenda?
I move that we approve and adopt the August 13th, 2019 meeting agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comment on this agenda? Okay, we'll vote.
I'm behind you.
Whenever you're ready.
Ms. D. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
We have some minutes up for approval. These are minutes that were previously approved, but we have since realized there were some typos in them. So I have several motions in your board book. These errors are highlighted. So if you could take a moment to retrieve your minutes so we can go through those. So there'll be a motion for each one. So the first one is on page 3. It's the first highlight. That statement currently reads, Ms. Dorothy Rhodey Collins was confirmed as the president of the board for 2018 to 2019. That one's the one on page 2 is correct. Okay. So the first motion I'll be making is about the one on page 3. So I move to amend that sentence to read, Ms. Dorothy Rhodey Collins was confirmed as the president of the board for the 2019-2020 school year. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comment? Okay, we can vote.
I'm sorry, President Collins, I didn't hear it. No, I didn't hear who made the motion.
I made the motion, and Tracy seconded.
You ready for roll call? Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Bow?
Yes.
Ms. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion passed.
So the next highlight on page 3 is correct as written. So turn the page, and on page 4, I'd like to make a motion to correct the statement to read, Miss Natalie Vowell was confirmed as the vice president of the board for the 2019-2020 school year. Is there a second to that motion? Please make sure.
Second.
So Susan made the second. Are there any questions or comments on that? We're ready to vote, Ms. Lewis?
Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? I'm sorry, Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion passed.
The next highlight that is correct as written, at the very end of the section 7 entitled Board Officer Elections, I would like to make a motion to add a new statement that reads, Dr. Roberts was confirmed as the secretary of the board for the 2019-2020 school year. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We can vote, Ms. Lewis.
Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Ms. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Those are all our minutes for approval this evening, so we'll move on to Dr. Adams' portion of the meeting.
Again, good evening. The first day of school is always a special day for us and for our families and quite frankly, this community. It was our pleasure to welcome students back to their buildings today. And for more than 3/4 of our students that journey to school each morning, school starts at a bus stop. This year, we are trying something new to help students feel safe and secure as they wait for their buses, sometimes before the sun is up. At the urging of a conversation with Board Member Jones at the last board meeting, an idea came about to look at this concept called Neighborhood Net. And in partnership with the Better Family Life and the Urban League, we have volunteers stationed at 225 bus stops every day this week to ensure students get safely on the correct bus each morning, and also to give some indication that somebody cares about them. The initiative is called, as I said before, Neighborhood Net. The volunteers provide a second set of eyes and are instructed to contact our safety and security officers with any issues. This is a pilot, but we hope to keep it going. We welcome additional volunteers for persons who might be interested for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in terms of doing this particular effort. Secondly, one other item of note is that the St. Louis Cardinals, in partnership with Plant LED and Shine STL, will install LED lighting at Lion and Blow, Gateway Elementary, and Gateway Michael starting August the 19th. Most of our classrooms have fluorescent lighting, and our gyms have metal halogen lights. LEDs are environmentally friendly and extremely energy efficient. Thanks to the Cardinals and the St. Louis Public School Foundation for bringing these upgrades to some of our St. Louis public schools. At this point in time, we have 4 presentations to provide to the board. I'm going to move them around just a little bit because I'll be at the podium for 2 of the presentations. So summer learning will come first, followed by the benefits update. Dr. Knight will provide an update on the summer learning update, and Mr. Charles Burton, along with our consultants who are available, will do a presentation on benefits update. Dr. Knight.
Thank you. Tonight I'm going to give you just a brief update, overview on our summer learning of 2019. Want to highlight 5 areas around goals and priorities, the enrollment as well as attendance, looking at reading, talking just briefly about our partnerships, and then challenges as well as opportunities going into the summer of 2020. So when we started this work last spring, we wanted to identify priorities and goals that we really wanted to concentrate on as we were putting summer school together. And so the first was around intensive literacy support for our 3rd and 4th graders. And as you all know, according to Senate Bill 319, we have to offer summer learning support to those kids who are reading 2 or more grade levels below, credit recovery for our high school kids, and then offering any other enrichment opportunities for all students who opt into our summer learning program. With that, we identified those student goals. And our goal was to ensure that every child who came to us for summer learning had an increased reading goal of 2 months or more. Keeping in mind, some would say that this is an aggressive goal because summer school is only 20 days. And then also to increase our first day attendance by 100 students. So when we look at the enrollment, you have before you a 5-year trend. And these numbers have fluctuated over the last 5 years. And we took the highest enrollment day, which was the second Monday of the second week of summer school, which took us just over 5,000 kids. One of the targets that we had, as I mentioned, was to have a day 1 enrollment and looking at those numbers. And for day 1, and you see that in your notes, that was just over 2,700 kids. So the question is asked, what happened? Simply because when we look at the numbers from 17 to 18 to 19, when we look at the inclement weather days, we had 2 makeup weather days. Typically, we don't start summer school until 5 to 10 days after the school year ends. So we rolled right into summer school, and we think that that had an impact on the enrollment. And so with the enrollment numbers, looking at our attendance trends over time, and we ended with 77.23%. So here's where we really wanted to highlight and concentrate on reading. And so the numbers that you have here in front of you, but you also have the detailed information. This captures the 3rd and 4th graders because by law we are required to have summer learning for 3rd and 4th graders and testing them pre and post assessment through the use of STAR. So when we look at the number of kids that we tested in 2018 compared to 2019, you will see that starting at the top, the numbers are static, which means kids didn't fall, but they didn't grow either, but that's at about 44%. And going all the way down to 0.1, 0.3 months of growth. When you look at 18 to 19, there is growth from 20% to 22%. And then going on down the chart, 0.4 to 0.6, that was pretty static, but then 0.7 and higher, we moved from 15% to 19% of kids who were demonstrating growth just in 20 days with 20 days of instruction. The partnerships, we always want to highlight the summer partnerships that we do offer to our kids. Looking at COCA and Springboard, and what was unique about COCA and Springboard this year is that we offered it to elementary as well as to our middle school students. Girl Scouts, working with multiple sites, the Missouri Food Bank, which I'm sure many of you heard about, the piloting program with Farragut, the Cyber Academy, offering coding at Clyde C. Miller, and then the pre-AP prep program that we offer to our high school students. So the challenges and opportunities with summer learning. We always want to improve our registration process to ensure that we have an online process that we are capturing every child and every family who chooses to attend our summer learning program. The snow days, that's always a point of contention because we never know if we're going to have any makeup days. And then with the pending House Bill 604, with the late start date for the 2021 school year, having a late start date may in fact impact summer learning. So do we look at having summer learning in June into July, or do we have a much greater gap with kids ending the school year before we start again in August? So while that may be a challenge, there in fact may be an opportunity as well. And then highlighting some of the other opportunities, providing a literacy boot camp to not just capture 3rd and 4th graders, but to capture our kids early in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, increase Boy Scout opportunities, and expand the middle school to have more enrichment options. Because we always want to ensure that our 8th graders are indeed ready for the freshman transition. So that captures the challenges, opportunities, our priorities and goals with summer school, and I will entertain any questions at this time.
Are there any questions for Dr. Knight?
I have a question. Looking at the reading gains, do you have anything specific that you attribute the sort of improvement in the 3rd and 4th grade reading over the improvement last year?
So it's just being much more intentional and being much more focused. So we gave the teachers specific standards. We gave them instructional minutes, so just planning out the entire day for them, and then allowing children to take home books so that they can start their own personal libraries, but just to have much more dedicated time around reading. It was our focus during the academic year, and it continued to be our focus into the summer months.
And to that end, I see that you have the provided targeted literacy boot camp to 3rd and 4th graders during June and July as an opportunity. I was wondering what that involves. Is that something completely different from what we did this year with our 3rd and 4th graders, or if that's something similar but more targeted?
And it could be. It could be where we have much more field experiences, and this is just something that Dr. Adams and I have just briefly touched on in terms of not just having kids sitting in a classroom, but getting out into the community and having much more field experiences and tying that back into literacy experiences.
Thank you.
So getting more out into the communities.
Thanks.
Sure.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, my question is for the older students. When it comes to reading, I know we always provide extra literature for the students to take home books and whatever, but what about the older students, high school? Are there free books available to them?
So we do have some materials that we do provide, but keeping in mind high school is meant for credit recovery. So oftentimes when the kids come to us, they come to us specifically for that class. And so we do have, in partnership with our librarians and the public library, where we're able to offer library cards and free resources to our high school students. But that is just based on kids who come to summer school, but understanding that they come for credit recovery purposes only.
Right, so I guess what I'm asking is there an opportunity for the high schoolers when they're at their actual school to get free books that they might want to read?
Yes, yes. And that's something that I'm going to be talking with our literacy specialist about, because that is something that it came up during our professional development last week, that librarians want to be able to provide resources where kids can take home books at the secondary level, so they can start preparing those libraries before they go off and, after they graduate. So that did come up last week. So thank you for asking that.
Okay, and my last question is about selection of books. Does the district or downtown or yourself select the books, or does that fall within the responsibility of the high school, or do the students get a list, or do they offer suggestions on books that they might want to read?
So we have a summer reading list that we provide, and that is in collaboration with the English language arts teachers, our academic coaches, as well as our curriculum coordinator. So it is a combined effort. So there is input from everyone, not just from central office.
The students as well.
The students as well. So if you recall, I gave just the update, the presentation last fall or spring, and talked about some of the reading materials within the curriculum. The Hate You Give is one, and The Hate You Give was feedback from our students in terms of this is a novel that they want to be able to read, that all juniors and seniors should be able to read. And so we have that embedded in the curriculum based on their feedback.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Knight. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So I saw the table was for 3rd and 4th grade, but you tested everyone? Is that elementary age students, everyone was tested?
Yes, through 8th grade.
Okay. Do you have an idea of what the growth was overall for
Yes.
all students enrolled?
Yeah,
Sure.
We do have that data. Dr. Knight and I did kind of talk about it, but this was the area that was required by the law. We can obviously provide the board an update by grade if you want to, based upon all the grades. I'm not sure if she probably knows off the top of her head, but
I have it right here. I have it, but I can certainly make
Sure.
sure you get a copy of, make sure everyone gets a copy of it.
That would be great.
Okay.
yeah, you can see it if you want to. I mean,
Okay,
it's okay.
all right. So for 6th grade, all of our 6th graders demonstrated, the ones that were assessed, 1.6 months of growth. So that was almost over a year, over 20 days. Our 7th graders demonstrated a month of growth, over 20 days, and then our 8th graders demonstrated 2 months of growth. So while it's not all of the kids, just those that we had the opportunity to work with, we were able to show some evidence of impact by working with them for 20 days.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Knight, so summer school is a percent of total enrollment, 24.8%, which is almost 25, which means that 1 out of every 4 students in SLPS is going to summer school. Is there a district plan to address and get that number down? Do we know what this number is? Rolling 2 questions into one. And do we know what this number looks like compared to other districts of comparable size?
Yeah, I don't want to tell you something wrong on that one. No.
No, we are the only ones that are required to have summer school for grades 3 and 4. So it is a requirement for us. Obviously, the high school summer school is about credit recovery, as Dr. Knight has already indicated. For us, we would like the number to be higher, quite frankly, because we want to keep kids engaged through the summer because of summer learning loss. And in addition to that, there are a lot of districts, almost all districts, do summer school because they get paid additional dollars for summer school as well. It's almost breaks even, if you will. So for us, the options that we're looking at is that it becomes much more enrichment as opposed to remediation. But we want to have summer school for the mandatory 20 days or more.
And I understand that. So are we tracking what percent of this 24.8% are there for credit recovery, and what percent of that are there for enrichment?
All of the high school students or credit recovery has already been indicated to Ms. Jones. That's 100% of the students at the high school level are credit recovery. Everyone else would be enriched, with the exception of grades 3 and 4, which would be remediation. So we try to find students who are reading below grade level, and those are the ones that are identified. Normally, our schools like Kennard and Mellon-Crott, those are the programs that are normally for enrichment or McKinley, because those are students who are reading above grade level or on grade level.
So then I can rephrase my question. For the ones that are there for remediation at the high school level, is there a district-wide plan to address their issues before it gets to the summer? And if not, again, do we know what our high school remediation summer school rates compared to other districts of similar size?
I'll take the second question first. The answer to the second one is no, I do not. We can try to get some information from our surrounding districts to find out. The only district that would be comparable to us will likely be Kansas City, mainly because of the fact that it's an urban district and it's also a district that has charters that impacts it. The second question is, yes, you're 100% correct. It is mandatory, and it is mandatory right now for all of our high schools to develop a tutoring program such that students don't need that remediation during the summer. And we're looking to find, well, I've already targeted some additional dollars such that any student who's failing early on, that there's an in-school tutoring program as well as a weekend or after-school tutoring program for all of our students. And that was put in place at the beginning of the year, at least for the schools that I supervise, and Dr. Gill is doing the same thing for the schools that she supervises. So it's our intent, quite frankly, that we don't have any students that will likely need remediation, because we are offering them an opportunity during the school day, before school, and after school to get tutoring if they have grades that are not appropriate. So that's what we're trying to do this year. That was not the case in the past. Thank you, Dr. Knight. Mr. Burton?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Burton, the Chief Human Resource Officer. With me today is our benefits team, which is led by our superstar, Karen Shelton Henry, our benefits specialist, and Dr. Myra Pendleton's part of this team. And then our consultants from USI, which are Mike Kilker and Rebecca Schmidt. I think up on the screen you'll see the agenda for this proposal. We'll kind of review the marketing strategy, and then look at independently the medical, pharmacy, dental, and vision coverage, and then the various life and long-term insurance coverages. Finally, we'll look at wellness highlights, if we could. Next slide, thank you. So we're required to go to market every 3 years. We sent the proposal to 26 carriers specifically, as well as posting it on the website. 11 different vendors responded. We had 8 different areas of coverage that they responded to. It should be noted that we reviewed all of those proposals together with our benefits team, particularly USI. After reviewing those, we met and consulted with the Joint Benefits Committee, which consists of our team as well as representatives from the various unions. It should be noted AFT Local 420 and Local 42 attended the meeting, and the representatives from our Local 148 and our nurses union chose not to attend. After review and consultation with all of those, we recommend a renewal of all our current carriers at various rates, which we'll see on the next slide. Cheryl, oh, too far, one more, back. There we go, thank you. Medical coverage, and this again would go into effect January 1st. We currently use United Healthcare. We recommend returning to them with a negotiated rate of an 11.3% increase. It should be noted the national trends is between 11 and 10%. However, our initial rate based upon our claims, we could have seen an increase at about 12.9%. We'll talk a little bit more about that. When I look at the other bidders we got on medical, Aetna was one. They weren't competitive. The increase they offered was about 29%. Anthem was competitive in terms of pricing. However, in terms of their network, they weren't. Going with Anthem would have resulted in what we call about a 20% membership disruption, meaning that 1 out of 5 of our employees would have had to switch their primary caregiver, which we didn't think was a good choice. And then they offered a substantially less robust wellness plan, which you think is important in terms of the overall health and wellness of our employees. So we didn't go with that option either. It's also should be noted in terms of as we think about our claims and increases, there's a law in Missouri which only applies to urban districts, which says that we have to offer our under 65 retirees the same benefits at the same rate and premium that we offer our current employees. I mean, that seemed like a big deal, but when you look at our loss ratio, our current active employees have a loss ratio, and I'll explain that in a minute, of about 84%. That means for every dollar that we spend in premium, we only file about 84 cents in claims, which is really good. The challenge with our under 65 employees is that the loss ratio is 110%, meaning for every dollar we pay in premiums, they actually pay out claims of $1.10, right, as you see, which is bad. And so basically what's happening, because of the way the law is structured, we're subsidizing in ways that perhaps other school districts that aren't urban in the state, other than Kansas City, don't have to. We're subsidizing our retirees with our active benefits, active employees. And so anyway, as a result, our claims are higher, and we see this rate increase. Moving on, pharmacy, there we go. We're looking at a pharmacy increase, again, of about 9.2%. It should be noted we're self-funded for pharmacy, so basically what we pay is the cost of the drugs and an administrative fee. We're looking at an increase in part because of our trends, again, as a district. It's also important that we're part of the Business Health Coalition, so we're getting the best rate. It's just we have a high usage. And so as a result, our increase is about 9.2%, which, if you'll see here, is also a little lower than the national trend, which is 10 to 13. In addition to that, we're also recommending that we go into these new programs that are at no cost to the district. Both programs are designed to improve or to reduce cost for diabetes-related drugs. So, and the reason that matters is about 40% of our pharmaceutical spend as a district is spent on diabetes-related drugs. And so it's important for us to begin to look at that data and to say, how do we fix that? And so both these programs, Safeguard, RX Diabetes Care Value Program, which helps people better manage their diabetes and save money, and then the Patient Assurance Program, which reduces the copay for diabetes-related drugs to $25. And as we reduce the copay, we increase compliance, and we increase compliance, we ensure our employees are healthier. We believe that'll save us money both on the pharmacy and on the medical side. Am I talking too fast? All right, thank you. Medical cost comparison. If you'll look here, it should be noted this is a blended rate, meaning that this is the cost of our medical and our pharmacy combined. That's the blend. I think that's pretty simple. You'll see that the current cost for the district for the buy-up plan is $107, and that the proposed cost would be $175. I mean, not 100. I'm sorry, $701, and then the proposed cost would be $775, and that increase goes across the board on that buy-up plan for an employee who adds for his spouse. The increase for next year would be about $60. For an employee who adds their children, the increase would be about $37. And for an employee who has their whole family, the increase would be about $90. Moving on. There we go. Dental coverage, we were able to negotiate a 4% decrease. That's a 2-year guaranteed and a 3rd-year cap rate of 5%. The national trend's about 2.5 to 5%. There were other bids, but none of them were competitive in terms of cost or network. Vision, there we go. Vision coverage, we're looking at a decrease of about 3%. That's a 4-year rate guarantee. There was another bidder, again, they weren't competitive, about a 10% increase. And then this slide's really busy. It's a short-term disability, long-term disability, basic life, accidental death and dismemberment, and voluntary life coverage. Due to our claims experience, again, nobody was able to match Cigna's increase of 3.48%. That's driven largely by the employees we have on long-term disability and our life claims over the last 3 years. Unfortunately, we've had a tough 3 years. We've lost a number of employees. That number has driven up this rate. And additionally, we have a number of employees who, it's hard to explain, but the way the law is written, if you're on long-term disability and you exit a company, even if you leave the company, you stay on their long-term disability until you reach the age of normal retirement. So we have a number of younger employees who are on long-term disability, has driven up our cost. And you can see the other bidders were not competitive, Anthem at 7% and Hartford nearly 6% of an increase. Skip a slide, there we go, yep. And then this here is basically what this looks like for the district and the employee. You can see that, I guess that second group of columns is the estimated annual premium. Everything included, it's about $36 or $39 million. We spent 36 last year, looking at 39 for next year. It's a $3.4 million increase or 9.6%. Of that, you can see the employee responsibility will be about $369,000 of that, $370,000 of that, which is an increase for the employee responsibility of about 8.4%. And then the district's responsibility is $3 million total additional, which is about a 9.7% increase overall. And this is for all lines of coverage. And now I'll let Ms. Shelton Henry wrap us up with these last two slides.
This slide represents the district's financial responsibility per employee per month. So if you look at 2013, we actually had a really great year as far as claims was concerned. In 2014, a substantial decrease because we had a company that came in and actually lowballed an offer to get the business. It happened again in 2017. And for 2020, it's actually about where we should be year over year. Next slide, please. And then this slide highlights the wellness program. So the district has an award-winning wellness program. We want to continue to offer Simply Engaged. It's an online wellness and coaching program where employees can go on and self-manage different programs based on their interests. We like to continue to offer the Rally program. It's a weight loss program where employees sign up. They get a weight loss kit. The program started in March of 2017. I'm happy to announce that the district collectively has lost 3,726 pounds to date. We're going to have Wellness Day again on September 14th. We have 30 vendors signed up already. Employees will be able to come at no cost. They can get screenings done. They can get coaching. They can learn more opportunities about wellness venues and partnerships that we have throughout the community. We will continue to offer fresh fruit to all of our employees 4 times a year via the Green Bean Delivery program. Employees get fresh fruit delivered to their school. Employees get 1 to 3 pieces of fruit depending on the shipment that comes, and that's no cost to employees. We are the recipients of the 2018 Silver Award from the American Heart Association. We received it in 2019. No other school district in Missouri received that award. And we are the 2019 YMCA Corporate Cup Challenger winner. So we did 10 different challenges in 2018 to receive the award from YMCA, and we were #1 in our cheer group. Questions?
Does the board have any questions at this point in time? A lot of information, I realize it, but obviously the board will be voting on this at the next meeting, and it's likely the largest contract that this board will take up. And so are there any questions? Ms. Jones, and then followed by Ms. Miller.
Good evening, and thanks for the presentation. As it relates to the prescription drugs, could you explain a little bit more about what you mean by self-funded? And on top of that, how often are we sourcing for pharmaceuticals or medical supplies that this district needs? And then also, what vendors have we looked at outside of Express Scripts?
So your first question was about self-funding. Self-funding means that you don't pay a premium. Okay. You actually pay the cost. We get a best-in-class pricing because we're with St. Louis Business Health Coalition. So there's a group of about 26 employers that actually purchase through Express Scripts. And so by doing that, we get great pricing as opposed to using a pricing structure through an insurance company. So let's just say company ABC would offer a pharmacy plan. We've evaluated it time after time, and it would probably cost the district about $2 to $3 million more just in pharmaceuticals. So we actually think we're getting the best pricing.
Okay, and so is the Business Health Coalition considered to be a group purchasing organization?
Yeah, they are. So within the Business Health Coalition, you have several school districts, you have some of the largest employers in town, Emerson Electric, things like that. And what they do collectively buy is, like they arrange discounts on something like dispensing fees. So you go to the pharmacy, the pharmacist goes and collects the prescription, and then they give it to you. Well, there's a fee for doing that. And normally, if you're not part of this group, you're probably paying anywhere between $2 and $3 per prescription just for what they call a filling charge. They're getting it for 50 cents, 75 cents, depending on what you're getting. So the real savings, just right off the bat that you can see, is in the dispensing charges. Then the second thing that they pick up through this coalition is ingredients costs. So they measure a lot of those drugs by just what the ingredients are within those drugs. And when you're part of this large group, you're getting discounts on those ingredients costs as well. Now, how they're doing it with Express Scripts, like there's the Business Health Coalition, they will go out and negotiate with Express Scripts and with Optum and with all other kinds of what they call pharmacy benefit managers. And so when they go out and negotiate, this year they brought in 2. So Optum, every one of their, every member had that option of either going with Optum or with Express Scripts. This year for the district, it worked out better to be with Express Scripts because Optum has some things in their contracts that are pretty restrictive. And because, for example, Charles mentioned we have a lot of diabetics. So there is certain things in the Optum contract that were not quite as advantageous to your members as would have been by just staying with Express Scripts. In terms of pricing, very little difference. It's kind of a preference. Do you want to be with United, or do you want to be with, well, today, Express Scripts is Cigna.
Okay. And then lastly, how long have we been with the Business Health Coalition, and then what other organizations did we look at to assess where we would like to be?
We've probably been with them. Yeah. I'm going to just, I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to say 10 years at least.
Okay.
And we evaluated everybody else. So all the insurance companies like United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, every one of them would like to get this. But we haven't been able to find anybody that's been able to beat it, primarily because we're not looking at the St. Louis Public Schools with, say, 4,000 members. We're looking at 100,000 members. So the challenge is we're not going to get the same dispensing fees, as low at dispensing fees. And we're not going to get those ingredients cost as low because we're only talking a smaller number of people as opposed to, 100,000 almost. That's the real advantageous reason for being part of this, is that you got a much bigger group that you're buying with. Hope that answered
A little bit. It sounds like you named mostly insurance companies, and if I'm understanding this correctly, this is a group purchasing organization, and this is not an insurance company. And so there are other group purchasing organizations out there. This is also my area of specialty, so I'm asking you these questions to ensure that we're getting the great pricing that we deserve for our staff members and our students. So what other GPOs have we considered?
We looked at, well, let's see. Yeah, let me get back with you.
Okay. And I can get this information at a later time, but I would like for you guys to consider this in the future.
Okay.
Ms. Miller?
I have a couple of questions. First, does the medical coverage that we currently purchase cover mental health services? I assume that it does.
Yes.
So I'd love information on what the details of that coverage are and what the percentage of use of that mental health coverage is. And then are there any other employee like additional services for employees, supplemental services for mental health coverage in the instance that there are needs that go beyond what's covered in these plans.
So, yeah, I think we may reach out through Dr. Adams to get clarity about that, but we can certainly provide
That
that
would be great,
information.
thanks.
Yeah.
Ms. President Rhodes, Cobbs.
So for the medical, have there been any changes to the deductible or copay or co-insurance or any other parts of the plan?
Not this year. No, all those are the same as they were last year.
That's all.
Ms. Jones?
I have one question, and I wanted to know, does this insurance cover gym membership?
It does not.
I was just thinking, you know, up front, before things start happening, it would seem like somewhere we would have gym memberships for everyone.
So we do have a discount program, but I mean, well, I'll leave that at that. Yeah, we have a discount program, and I think that's something the Wellness Committee can take under consideration. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Burton or the team? Hearing none other? Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The board received a template with minimal information or really no information prior to today, quite frankly. And I wanted to give the board an update on back to school. Obviously, today was the first day of school, and we've been gathering data since that time. And so it was my intent today to try to walk you through some key data points. Obviously, this is only the first day of school, so when we meet again in September, we'll have a full-blown presentation that lays out all of the data points for every single thing. Some things were kept out, like transportation at this point in time, in terms of the call center and those kinds of things. So I'll walk through this rather quickly. First of all, back to school fair, to give you some idea, and I thank the board for being present on Saturday at the back to school fair. Right now, the estimation is about 12,000 attendees and about 90 vendors. 40 of those vendors were SLPS schools or booths, if you will. You can see what the numbers are. Last year, 16,000. We would anticipate the number to be over 25,000 for the 3-day event. This is only for Saturday that you see listed here. And again, this is an estimate. We'll get more information over the next two or 3 days. In terms of hiring and staffing, about 168 teachers hired, and this is as of August the 8th. You can see that the previous data reflects the entire year. This is just from July 1st through August the 1st. Teach for America, 22 hires, a total of 182. Should be noted from the 8th until today, quite frankly, that number is much, much higher, but we are giving you a snapshot as of the 8th because that's the data that we felt comfortable with providing at this point in time. Number of teachers who resigned, 37 from July 1st to the 8th. 4 teachers who retired. 0 terminations, and 1 teacher separation as a result of the reasons you see listed there. So a total of 42 separations between July 1st and August the 8th. Lastly, not lastly, the next item, number 6, are hard to fill. I'm sorry, the next item, teaching staff, 96 vacancies, non-teaching staff, 73, principal, assistant principal vacancies, 1, and you approved 1 tonight, which really addresses that 1 vacancy that existed. And the 96 was as of August the 8th, between the 8th and the 13th. That number is dramatically reduced from 96. I'm not willing to tell you what that number is right now because obviously person's offers have been made. We're waiting for TB tests to come back, waiting for background checks to come back, but we believe that number is much lower than that, than 96. But as of that date, August the 8th, that was the data, and you can see all of the other data points were from the 29th in 2016 to 29th in 2017 and the 13th in 2018. So total number of vacancies is about 170 as of that date. Hard to fill vacancies, won't read them all to you at that point in time, but as of August the 8th, science continues to be a real challenge for us, and special education continues to be a challenge for us much more than any other area. Elementary education obviously represents 42 schools, and so the number you see there is 24. Employee relations, I won't read this to you, but as of July 1st to the 8th, you can see the number of ADA claims, the number of other claims that you see listed here, and also liquidated damages, meaning persons who leave the district that we go after to have them paid for leaving the district when they sign a contract, and policy violations 68. Leave of absences, again, I won't read all of these to you. It is important to note that when after June 30th, persons have to re-up, if you will, July 1st for any claim that they had the previous year. So this represents, quite frankly, persons who have to come back from the previous year to indicate that they are extending their family medical leave requests, and also any other requests that they might have for themselves, or intermittent leaves as well, and also any other kind of leaves. They have to re-up or request that those leaves go in effect for July 1st. Grievances, 12 by Local 420 at this point in time, 8 resolved, 4 outstanding. Transportation, 200 buses that are regular buses, 77 special education buses, a total of 277 buses, and as has already been indicated, about 17,000 students are scheduled to ride buses, 17,409. General Call Center opened on Friday. You can see the dates that we indicate for previous years. This only represents 2.5 days as of 12 o'clock today. It ended the numbers that we are calculating, so some 1,761. The call center is housed in here from 6 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And when we meet in September, we'll give you some final data on all of these numbers. Ambassador and survey days, we have ambassadors to go to schools for 4 days in a row, starting today, to go to all 72 schools. And so the data you will see will only represent one day today, and that is today. In terms of data from last year, dark blue represents any kind of outstanding issues around textbooks. There was 76% compared to 24. Today's record indicates 86 to 14. That represented some textbooks from Pearson and some writing books that had to be identified. The books were delivered but not necessarily found, and so we were able to find the books, but this number represents those data points. In terms of materials, extracurricular materials and lesson plans, last year that number was 88 to 12, and as of today, that number was 100% in terms of materials and lesson plans ready for execution on day one. Any questions relative to the back-to-school report? Again, this is information based on what we have collected so far this year. When we come back in September, we'll give you a full-blown analysis of all of the data points, in addition to some other data points that are presently being housed in the transportation department.
How soon can we be provided with a list of the non-teaching staff vacancies?
That is a moving target, quite frankly, Mr. Lang. We can get that data to you, and it changes every single day. It is my belief that you'll get final, at the work session will probably be the best data point to give to you, because we'll be 2 weeks into the year, and so at the work session in 2 weeks, I can provide you an updated information relative to the number of teacher vacancies and exactly where those vacancies are.
So that would list the name, title, position of every vacancy?
Yes, sir. I can
you
provide
said that would be by when?
I could get that to you as early as the work session 2 weeks from tonight. I could get it to you on a weekly basis if you want to. I could give it to you every week if you wanted until the September data point, but again, it changes every single day, quite frankly.
Dr. Adams, I didn't see any information included in the report relative to technology, but I did notice a sign saying that we were out of iPads for our new teachers, so what is the status for that?
So, yeah, I can provide that information to you. We have not historically collected that data. We had a number of teachers who resigned after that date and time, which is June 30th, and so I think we are short about 40 to 45 laptops to teachers at this point in time, and an order has gone out to replenish those. Plus, some of the laptops that have been turned in have been damaged, and so that's the reason why we have about 40 teachers who still need, I think when I talked to Mrs. Vandello last week, it was about 40 to 45 teachers. But that has not historically been a data point for us. We could add that to the data as well. Last presentation, if there are no other questions for this one. The board made a request for some update around the the voluntary inter-district corporation transfer program, and I will walk the board through this. The board obviously received a copy of it and some background information as well. And so it is my intent today to talk about what is the Vic program, what's the historical background of participating districts and students, the funding, and the new direction that Vic is looking at. First of all, the voluntary, the Vic program was established to increase racial integrity, integrated learning opportunities for St. Louis students under a settlement agreement that was reached and approved by the federal courts in 1983. It allows African American students residing in the city to attend one of several participating school districts in St. Louis County. That number, I think, at one time was 23. I think that number right now is 16 or 17. Provided certain eligibility requirements and residency and behavioral records are met. The VIC program provides for non-African American students who live in a participating suburban school district to transfer to any St. Louis public school, magnet school, and that includes gifted schools as well. The historical background, quite frankly, is this was an agreement in 1999. A revised settlement was reached among various parties, which transformed the federal supervisor VIC program into one implemented by the VIC program, which is a 501c3, with an agreement that suburban school districts will continue to accept new transfer students for at least a 10-year period, which they have done to 2018-19. The new agreement included language specifying that the program could be extended to accept new students beyond the 2008-2009 original end date, and that has occurred on two occasions. In 2007, an initial 5-year extension occurred. In 2012, a second one occurred. And in 2012, new students will continue to be enrolled by districts through at least 2018-19. Once enrolled, those students will continue their education throughout their graduation. In 2016, the VIC board decided that they would extend the program only for siblings. That would be students leaving the city, going to the county, the students leaving the county, coming to the city, with an emphasis on until 2024. And after that point in time, it will continue to likely 2035, because that would mean that the first students entering will graduate finally in 2035. The participating districts, I won't read all of them to you. You see them listed there. In 2017, the last data that I was able to obtain, although I did get a report from, Mr. Glazer yesterday, and I did not update this slide as a result of that, but the last data that I had was September 2017. About 157 students who are leaving the county, coming to the city to participate in our magnet school program, and approximately 4235 leaving the city, going to the county. In 2017-18, the number accepted was about 413 new students, new city to county transfer students, and about 85 county to city transfer students. That was the last year that we had data for 17 and 18. The funding, I won't read to you again. Basically, the funding comes through the state. There's a cap of about $7,000 per student as of the year 2003 and 2004 for students moving from the county to the city. And lastly, some conversation has taken place with superintendents in this area with the idea that the courts really frown on the fact that this kind of a program like this will continue forever. And so there's some conversation taking place, not looking at race or as a basis, but looking at the social economic factors to determine if a program like this will continue. It is likely that some conversation will continue, with some decision likely rendered in 2023 and 2024 about some possibilities. Superintendents like myself and county superintendents have been discussing this for the last 2 or 3 years. While the board, the elected board wasn't sitting at the table, there was the SAB did commission a report to be done by Jerome Morris, who is the endowed professor at UMSL, and that report was provided to the board. It is a part of the record that I can provide to the board to kind of give some recommendations about what might happen long-term as it relates to the VIC program, and what some effects have been over the last 30 years as it relates to the program, by interviewing students, by interviewing staff, and also by looking at some data relative to it. This was an item that came to me late in terms of getting it prepared for you, and I know we didn't have a lot of time to have a lot of conversation, but I'll gladly take any questions or refer questions to our legal, Mr. Sanoma, if there are any questions regarding the presentation. Mrs. Jones?
My question is around the cost. Is it $39 million right now
In terms of a total cost,
of the program?
I am not sure what the actual amount is at this point in time, to be honest with you. Ms. Jones, I can get that information for you. Obviously, it changes on a yearly basis depending upon the number of kids that are participating and the transportation costs as well, but I can get that number for you. I have a report from David Glazer that I received on today, and I have that information.
I guess my concern on this as well is, are you a part of the board?
I am part of the VIC board. Every superintendent is a part of the VIC board that is participating.
But the decisions that this VIC board makes only affects St. Louis City schools. I mean, students.
The way the agreement is framed is that the superintendents who are part of the VIC program have a vote, but the districts that have the largest number of students have a vote proportion to the number of students they have. Example, Rockwood might have 33% of the students that are participating in the VIC program. Their vote is worth 33%. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So they can override, two districts can basically override any vote that any other districts make because they have more students in the program. That is how the law has been structured for the VIC program.
More St. Louis students, correct?
All African American students who leave the city going to the county, it was only exclusive to St. Louis Public School students.
So there are students, but they get the power, they get the votes.
As it relates to extensions,
Yes.
everybody votes, but the voting power is contingent upon the number of students who are participating in their school district. That is correct.
So when I looked up the board today, I noticed that they had board members from other districts, and there weren't any St. Louis Public School board members.
So let me back up. Okay. There's a VIC board that's separate and apart, similar to this board. There's a VIC board that is not made up of the superintendents. There's a superintendent's board that votes to determine if action is going to take place. It's two separate boards we're talking about. You follow what I'm saying? So when I vote, I'm not voting as a board. I'm voting as part of the superintendents who make recommendations and vote on actions that are being taken place by the administration. The board that's made up of VIC is a different kind of board. It's a board that governs, if you will, the 501c3. Two separate kind of boards. When I am not part of the board, I am part of the voting block of superintendents. Maybe that's a better way of clarifying.
Right, yeah, because it was confusing when I looked online. It looks as if they save a portion of the money for the program out and reinvest it in I don't know what, but so.
Like most districts, we all invest dollars throughout the course of the year, short-term investments, and so they do the same kind of thing, whether that's a CD, we all make investments. The St. Louis Public School District invests money as well, such that they can get a better return and use the interest to better support the district. But all districts do that.
So it would be to their benefit to keep the program going?
At this point in time, they're indicating that the program ends. They realize that it can't last forever, and in 2023 and 2024, the program goes away in all effect, period, regardless of siblings at this point in time, unless some other decision is made. So the program ends exclusively in 2023, 2024, and no new students will be allowed to be in the program. Those students who are in it will remain in it until they get out in 2035.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions.
So the next item on our agenda is the August consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Please include the numbers of the items in the motion.
I move that we approve the August 13th, 2019 consent agenda items 813, 1901, 02, 03, 04, 05, and 06.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any questions or items for discussion on the August consent agenda?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. So reports of the board, I'm going to start with Ms. Val at the end, and we'll work our way through.
So I guess my only real report is that I have worked on the bylaws a bit, as we discussed in our June work session, and I have several changes I would like to speak with the board about, perhaps in our next work session, and if possible, have legal present. There are some concerns, I guess, with the way the bylaws are supposed to be changed as set by the bylaws, so I'm a little confused on how the writing is supposed to be submitted to board members, whereas it's a little bit more detailed for policy. So perhaps you can clarify that at a work session, and make sure I have nothing else. Yeah, it's basically around communications, the role of board members, and clarifications about how bylaws are changed. And that is all.
And if you don't mind, I totally forgot. Ms. Jones, Ms. Susan Jones, and Dr. Roberts have a presentation about the institute that they attended at Harvard University. I did tell Ms. Jones that they would be going first in the board member reports, and just sped right on through. So Susan and Joyce, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, they're coming down now. Everyone's getting a copy of the few slides, and it's very brief. And after we make this presentation, we can discuss this further in a work session. Joyce, did you want to put any input in before we get started?
I'll be happy to do the lead in. It was a wonderful opportunity to network with school boards from around the country. I've been in the business a long time, and it was by far the best opportunity for professional development for board members. And I would encourage every sitting member on this board to participate if it's ever offered again in the near future.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. And as you can see on the front of your first slide here, we attended Harvard University July 28th through the 31st of last month, and the title of this specific this course that we took is called the Accelerating Board Capacity, where, of course, Dr. Roberts, myself, and also Superintendent Kelvin Adams attended. They actually did a custom design curriculum in collaboration with the Council of Great City Schools and also Harvard University faculty. And so throughout the days that we were there, various staff members would come in and we would do different case study analysis on different topics for us to discuss as board members. This specific course included members from across the United States, across the United States from different boards to discuss different issues or best practices that their boards are utilizing right now. And so just to give you a little bit of background, the ABC Institute is called the Accelerated Board Capacity Institute. This is a program focused on strong, effective school board governance for urban school board superintendents and also board members. The purpose of this was to strengthen our board's capacity for us to create conditions for success and also to lead in performance and results. And so ways that they did this were, of course, our in-class sessions, and also we did different breakout groups that included superintendents and board members from across the U.S. to talk about different issues and also solutions to the problems that we may be facing in our school district. Some of the action items and case studies that we covered in this specific course were performance management in complex organizations, developing and sustaining a culture of excellence, and also our roles and responsibilities of a school board. And furthermore, creating conditions for success, coherent governance framework model, incorporating family and community voice, decision-making, and also strategy. And so some of the takeaways that Dr. Roberts and myself identified here were strategy, and I won't read them to you because you have them in front of you, theory of change, and also question zero. And this final slide here is the final photo of one of our last dinners that we did at the conference with one of the top members of the Council of Greater City Schools, and also board members Joyce Roberts, myself, and Superintendent Kelvin Adams. So I second Mrs. Dr. Joyce's remarks that this was an amazing experience. We learned a lot. This was very competitive, and I would recommend this entire board attend this. I would recommend that we would attend this together as a team, and that is all from me at this time.
Dr. Roberts, did you have anything to add?
I do have a fuller version of the report that's available for your review. Copies I can give to you, and you can have copies made to be shared.
Do you have any like electronic version that we could distribute?
Yes, I do.
If you want to email that to me, I can get that out to the board.
And just to add again, we'll take some of these items and best practices that we learned to a work session, and I'd even like to, at one point, go over a case study that we did so that as a board, we could go over that to see just how we will handle that and to look further into the practices, policies, and procedures that we currently do now.
Thank you. Are there any board members that have a question? So not deep discussion on this, but if there are any overview type questions that you have about the Institute for Ms. Jones or for Dr. Roberts? Okay, so I just want to rewind a little bit also. There is one item on this. What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to indulge the board, if you don't mind looking at the September agenda. There's an item 910-1905, and I apologize for not having communication with the president prior to. Mr. Casey just reminded me. Normally what we try to do when we have items that affect buildings like construction kind of items, we try to get those approved as quickly as possible. This is an item to contract for flooring for some of our buildings. If the board will approve this tonight, it gives us the ability to start working on it as early as tomorrow or as early as Monday, as opposed to waiting until September, because this is an item that won't be approved until September. So I think the board has already asked questions relative to it. We already listed that it did go out for bid. There was only one vendor, and we list the schools that are going to be impacted by it. So if I can indulge the board tonight, and this is not a normal practice, but to ask the board to approve this particular item, which is a flooring item, such that some of the buildings in the classrooms that are impacted can get redressed as early as possible.
So is there someone that would like to make that motion?
Sure. I'll move that we approve agenda items 09, 10, 19, 05.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Adams or discussion amongst the board? Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
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 Yes. Great, thank you.
I'd like to thank the board. Thank you very much.
So back to board member reports. Ms. Miller?
I have two things to report. So one was that I had the opportunity to attend the back to school fair with the, I think maybe all the board members were there at some point in time. And it was a really great time. I don't know. I was really happy to be able to mingle with former colleagues and see students and parents and families get excited about going back to school. And so thank you to everyone who participated. I also had the opportunity with a couple of other board members to visit with the superintendent, some board members, and a principal in Indianapolis Public Schools to just sort of see what a different school district is doing differently. And so I expect that we will put together a more sort of informed Susan and Dr. Roberts type report to the board detailing some of the outcomes from that in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
How about that? The only add-on that I have is that I also attended the back to school fair, which was a success in my opinion. It was definitely great to meet the teachers, principals and also the families, and of course students of our district, and just in the city overall. So on top of what I already gave, that is all that I have today.
Thank you. Donna Jones?
I also attended the back-to-school fair, and it was so much fun. I really enjoyed meeting the families and enjoyed the children, and it gave me an opportunity as a board member to lend an ear to some of the concerns that the parents had. So it was really educational for me, and I appreciate everyone that came out and supported that effort. And I also wanted to thank Prospect Hill Church. I went to speak there about St. Louis Public Schools. And it was so encouraging to watch the people that were at the church bless the children, and they showed concern for the safety of our children, which we know is number one in our minds at this time. So I just want to thank everyone that sends prayers out for our children. Thank you.
I don't have an official board report, but I would like to acknowledge, I know Treasurer Jones sent out a tweet this morning talking about 11 students who wouldn't be returning back to school. I don't know if all 11 were SLPS, but I did want to use my board report time to just take a moment of silence for those students and their families that were not able to go back to school today. Thank you.
Dr. Roberts?
Thank you. Several things in my board report. I was in attendance at the press release around the neighborhood net, and to just see the community come together in support of safety for children was really remarkable. And so, Dr. Adams, thank you for agreeing to partner with Better Family Life. Reading is the central pillar in the district's transformational plan, and I want to share this card with the district. I was able to witness a bookmobile. That's a blast from the past in terms of books being available for our young people at schools. Well, in St. Louis County, they are making books available to students on the street corners, in their neighborhoods. There's no restrictions, no library cards. It's an honor system, and I believe it's something we can explore, and it's funded through a grant. So I'll leave this card so that we can explore that, especially since reading is important. Not only is the district committed to young people, but there are a lot of community initiatives thriving in the community. We heard one this evening, Better Budget. There's another one that I attended, which is called Education Reform, and they are interested in partnering with the school district around what's best for kids. In addition, how to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline was also offered in the community, and it was sponsored by Dr. Shanta Smith, and several of the board members were in attendance. And if you want to speak to that before I go on, please feel free. Susan? Okay.
Can you turn your mic on?
Just that it was a lot of great information. Didn't find out about it until Ms. Roberts was on her way. But once we got there, I ended up staying there for the majority of time because she just had so much information and feedback and different groups that she got together to talk about the different issues and how we could actually provide solutions to the issues that we're facing more importantly. So thank you, Dr. Roberts.
I'm just really hoping that Dr. Smith can come and do a presentation for us here because the information was so valuable, and I think we can learn a lot from her presentation.
And moving on, the Organization for Black Struggle did extend an invitation to the board to present at the Habari Saturday, and I did participate in that, and I do have an electronic copy of the presentation that I made specifically around governance, so everyone in the community is clear about the role of the Board of Education. And like Mr. Lane, I along with several other board members have reached out to families who have children who have gone too soon, and our heart goes out to them. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple of things to add on. I do appreciate everyone's service at the Back to School Fair. I also had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed being able to interact with the visitors to the fair, as well as the staff and families that came to stop by our booth. I have one appointment to make at this time. Ms. Donna Jones will be serving on the Public School Retirement System Board, effective, I believe her first official meeting will be October, but she may be able to participate prior to that. She will be serving out the remainder of Mr. Sullivan's term, as well as continuing on a 3-year term after that. I also wanted to put out there before the board that there have been many opportunities to speak that have come my way and to participate in other events. I would like to propose that we take those things up at a work session, not the items, but there is nothing in our bylaws that provides a process for the board to discuss or approve or determine participation of individual board members in events. And while I think there are many great opportunities out there for us, I think we are at a unique position where there may be people who seek to divide us or people who seek to use board members for their own gain, either now or in the future. And I would really like us to consider how we want to respond to those invitations, and I will be adding this as an item in the August work session. With that, I have no other remarks. Are there any other remarks from the board?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the comment from President Rhodey Collins, and that I would like to sort of like tie that to what Ms. Val was saying about the bylaws and potentially put that on an agenda for a future work session.
Great. So we are required to go back into closed session. There are many more items before us. So we need a motion to, Mr. St. Omer, what? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the public portion of our meeting and return to closed session?
I move that we adjourn our public session of our regular business meeting for August 13th, 2019, and pursuant to RSMO 610.021, move back, sections 1, 2, and 3, move back into our closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
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 Yes. So board members, let's take 10 maybe?
Yes,
And